Hey guys, I'm Scott and this is Cooking with Breeo. Today we're featuring Fire Roasted Salsa, cooked right over the Breeo from our boy, Tom H. Thanks for sending in your recipe, Tom. For any of you guys, you can send in your recipes. We'll have a link below, but we'll cook them on this channel if you get them to us. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is grab your cast iron skillet and we're gonna put it on the outpost. I'm gonna swing the outpost around and we're gonna lower it really low to the fire. That way we have some good heat. We can get that cast iron set up nice and hot. And we can always raise it up, but we want a really nice hot cast iron to start. One thing to mention is when you grab these, just be mindful that you have gloves on. It only takes one time till you realize that you should have had gloves on. So, all right. So the first thing we're gonna do is cut up these Vidalia onions. And these suckers are awesome. What I like to do is cut them in half, and then I like to leave the root of the onion on. The more you cut that root, the more your eyes are gonna water. So I like to cut that and then cut the stem off on both sides. And we're just gonna get all these ready right at one shot. Awesome, so once you have the stems cut off, we leave the root on. Now you're just gonna wanna peel them. It takes a little finessing, but just peel them. It's not too bad. And I find that once you cut the onions in half, it makes it a lot easier to peel. Now these Vidalia onions are nice and sweet, so they're gonna really have some nice flavor when you char them. And I'm gonna be rough cutting these. The nice part about rough cutting is stuff doesn't fall through and it's a little easier to pick out at the end. We will finely chop everything towards the end of this. All right, so how you're gonna chop an onion, as you can see, I have them in half, like so. Have them in half, and then you're just gonna take your knife a couple times. Because we're rough chopping these, you can cut them about like 5 or 6 times, and then make sure your fingers are out of the way, and just give them a couple slices through, and then into your bowl. And you don't have to get real fancy with the onions. Again, they're going into a salsa, so you want them to cook evenly, but the main thing is just to cut them quick. Don't stress over it. A lot of times people stress over cutting onions, and it's really not that bad. Leave that root on, and your eyes will keep from watering. Now I am actually gonna take a little olive oil and put it in the pan just a little bit ahead. You wanna do that until your pan gets really seasoned. You wanna get some olive oil in there. I'm gonna take a paper towel and kind of wipe it around just so that pan gets nice and coated. And then right before we put all the vegetables in, I am gonna put more olive oil in. All right, so we got all the onions cut up. You can see there's quite a bit of onions in there. They are gonna render down as we cook them. So this will be about half the size. It's gonna make a good bit of salsa here. We are making 2 servings today. We want enough for everybody to share. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is add garlic. Now we have 8 cloves of garlic for this recipe. There's the skin on. Some people like to leave the skin on and cook it that way and then take the skin after. I actually, this time, I'm gonna show you how just to get the skin off really easy. It's no stress. Take the side of your knife with your palm and just pop it like that. What that's gonna do is get all that nice flavor out for when we throw that in the cast iron, and it's gonna really roast that garlic very quickly. We're just gonna leave them whole for now because we're gonna be chopping everything up later. So this is just a really nice, easy way. It's no stress, and yeah. Oh, and a little trick to get garlic smell off your hands is rub against some stainless steel. Garlic can be pretty nasty. Your friends and family are gonna pay for it the next day, but at least to get the smell off your hands, I recommend just rub against some stainless steel. Yeah, you'll get that smell off your hands so you're not smelling it all day. All right, so the next thing that we have here is just some cherry tomatoes. We're gonna leave these whole so they blister when we put them in the pan. Another thing you can do is kind of cut them up, but what that'll do is release the juice right into the salsa. So we're just gonna add those right to this mixture. So we have this mixture all ready to go. We can mix it up nice. What we are gonna do is we have these serrano peppers, which are beautiful, and these poblano peppers, and we're actually gonna leave those whole. They're gonna go right into that pan, get a nice char, and then we're gonna sweat them at the end to really bring out that flavor. We'll peel the skin off, and then we'll chop them in with the rest of the salsa. I am gonna add a little bit of salt and you can kind of salt to taste. You want a good bit of salt because the sweetness of the onions and the sweetness of the cherry tomatoes are gonna really come out. And I am gonna actually coat a little bit of olive oil in here as well. We don't want a ton of olive oil because we are looking for that char, we're looking for that sweat. And so we don't want it to fry in oil. We just more want that just to get some good color on it. So I'm gonna sprinkle a little bit of olive oil on there and mix it up. And then we're gonna go with all of this right into the pan. So I got my peppers all right on there, and we are gonna go, I am gonna check the temp of this pan, and I'm gonna go a little bit lower with that. All right, so I'm gonna lower this just a little bit. The cast iron is gonna keep all that flame off of the vegetables, so that's no problem. If I find it's blistering too much, we'll just lift that up. But it's nice and hot. I'm gonna add a touch of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, and then we're gonna go in with the vegetables. And then I like to just evenly coat the pan with olive oil. And then this is what you're waiting for right here. I'm gonna set those peppers right in the pan. We want those touching the direct heat like that. They're gonna blister. You can see they're already starting to pop, and that's what you want. You want it to be popping a little bit. That gives it flavor. You are gonna see these at the end and think, oh my word, those peppers are burnt. They're not. We're gonna be peeling that skin off. And then here's for the fancy bit right there. Put all that in. Oh man, this is gonna be delicious. Awesome, so you can hear that crackling. That's exactly what you want. One of the things to keep in mind when cooking on the Breeo is use hardwood. You wanna use dry wood. You're not gonna have a smokeless fire if you're using wet wood. Also, if you're using softwood, it's okay to get the fire started, but once you get it up and running, use hardwoods like hickory or oak, you know, some things like that. Cherry's another good one, applewood. We're not as concerned with the smoky flavor when we're cooking something like this. The big thing we need here is char, but then your hardwoods are really gonna bring out the flavor when you're cooking your steaks and everything right on top of it. Now I'm just mixing these up. We're getting some nice char and color on those tomatoes. I mean, that just looks gorgeous. You want those to touch the bottom of the pan. Check these peppers out. We're starting to get some nice color on those peppers. That is what I'm talking about. All right, I am gonna bring an onion out just to taste it. I'd love to see how salty it is. One of the things that a lot of people don't do often enough is taste their food. So you wanna taste it. While you're cooking, you wanna taste it. Obviously with steak, you can't taste it, but as you're cooking vegetables and other things, you wanna taste as you go. You don't wanna put too much salt, but salt and pepper go a long way, pretty much with everything. So that's getting really nice, actually. I'm gonna add just a little bit of salt. As I mentioned, the sweetness of all this, of these tomatoes and the onions, you can have a little extra salt, and then we're gonna add a little acid and get a little kick with the cilantro at the end. It is good to salt your food as you're cooking. You can definitely add some salt at the end, but it's much better to salt it throughout. You'll develop more flavor that way, and rather than just throwing it on top at the end. So what I might do is I'm gonna toss these peppers right onto the hot grill, get them a little bit of actual flame going on, and that's gonna really get them going good. Wouldn't have to do that, but after all, this is fire roasted salsa, so that's what I'm talking about. This salsa is gonna be a little bit different than your normal fresh, cold salsa. You can eat it cold, but this is gonna be really good to enjoy, like a nice evening when you're getting into the fall, that kind of thing, because all these roasted flavors are gonna really be nice with that tortilla chip, so yeah. You'll see that the skins of the tomatoes are starting to fall off. That's a good sign. That means they're getting nice and charred, and they're gonna chop up nice and kind of turn into a puree. All right, so we got a good char on these. We can leave these on a little bit longer. But I do want to get this off. We don't want this to be completely caramelized. We still want some crunch. We got some good color on there. So I'm gonna pull this whole pan off and then I'll transfer the peppers back into the pan. It's gonna be delicious. I'm going right on the cutting board with this. That way we don't lose any of that juice. We'll let that cool for a little bit so we can chop it all up. And I'm going back in the pan with those peppers just to finish them off. We'll pull those off in just another minute or two. There you go. All right, we're gonna pull those peppers off. I'm gonna put them right into a bag. I know it kind of seems odd, but that's the way to do it, according to Tom. And you actually sweat these bad boys out and the skin just comes off nice. It's gonna be a little bit tricky to get the skin off, but this makes it a whole lot easier. Another thing you can do is put them into a bowl, cover it with saran wrap, and cover it with saran wrap. It'll do the same thing. But that's the trick. I'm gonna set those there. Now this has cooled down a little bit. It's just a little easier to cut when it's like that. What we're gonna do is rough chop it. We're gonna put it into a bowl. We're gonna taste it. We got a little cilantro, a little bit of lime juice, and we're gonna be good to go. Hopefully by the time we're cutting this up, our peppers will be ready as well. So a real rough chop is fine. You're gonna get some juice in here, and that's what you want. That garlic has basically turned really soft, and it's gonna permeate throughout. It's gonna be really, really good. So don't be afraid to mix all this together and rough chop. Get your hands a little messy. It's all good. Nice part about cooking tomatoes like that is you take some of that crunch out and some of the sweetness out, and it brings more of a depth when you actually cook them. So that's what you're looking for here, is to give it that roast. If you just put cherry tomatoes in particular, are often a little bit too sweet for a salsa. That's why you don't see cherry tomatoes in. But in this case, since we're cooking them, it's gonna be really, really nice. So I'm gonna go in right like this, and we are gonna have a delicious, delicious appetizer here. So these onions are still gonna be a little bit crunchy, which is what you want. You don't want them to be completely rendered down and caramelized because it is a salsa, but it's you're kind of bridging that line of being caramelized and yet still have a little bit of crunch to them. All right, these peppers should be ready. And you just kind of peel the skin right off. It kind of feels weird, honestly, but it's gonna be delicious. And that's just to get that real char, the burnt area off, and then you're gonna have a nice roasted pepper underneath that. All right, so something to consider here is you got these seeds. Now you can determine how many seeds you wanna leave in. If you want something really hot, leave a little bit more seeds in. Most of the heat comes from the seeds. If you don't want heat, leave them out or leave them on the side. I like a little bit of spice, so I'm gonna leave some of them in there naturally. I mean, it's fire roasted, so might as well leave some in. All right, then we're gonna do the same thing with these other peppers. They're ready to go. They're nice and sweated, and it just peels right off. Makes it super nice. So what you have here is you balance the sweetness and the spiciness, the sweetness from the onions and the tomatoes. You have some acidity from the tomatoes, and then we're gonna add a little lime, and it should be really good, and we will season for taste at the very end. All right, we're gonna do the same with these peppers. Skin it. These are the serranos. I'm actually gonna pull all the seeds out. You can just kind of use your knife to pull the seeds out of that. Again, a couple seeds are good, but you don't need this to be like slap your grandma hot, if you know what I mean. All right, so now for the fun part, I'm gonna clean this off a little bit. All that flavor's on the board. And we are gonna go in with just a little bit of a lime. And you can kind of do lime and salt to taste at the end. Limes are nice, they don't have any seeds in them. Lemons, it's nice to cut it just right off the edge, and then you don't get any seeds if you cut it just like that. So I'm gonna wait to put any more lime in. We're gonna have that ready just in case. I'm gonna cut up some cilantro, and we will see how it tastes. With a rustic dish like this, some stems from the cilantro aren't a big deal at all because it's just gonna kind of soften everything. It's nice and hot. So you just kind of rough chop the cilantro. I'm not gonna put it all in yet. We're gonna taste it and then see if we need to add a little bit more. Some people like cilantro, some people don't. When it's mixed in like this, it's not near as potent. But it really elevates the flavor. It just gives it that fresh flavor. And then I guess I should use a spoon and mix this bad boy up. Look at that. That looks ridiculous. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're gonna test this out with a chip. Chips are salty, so you wanna make sure whatever you're gonna be eating this with, you don't want too much salt in there if you got salt in the chip. Those roasted tomatoes, got the peppers, the seeds. That's unreal. Man, that's good. I had a piece of garlic in that one. That was nice. I am gonna add a little bit of lime juice just to cut some of that spice. The acidity will cut the spice, and I'm just gonna mix that in a little bit. And I think I am gonna put the rest of that cilantro in as well. Cilantro is really fresh. It's just gonna elevate the whole thing. Yeah. Tom H. knew what he was doing with this. I definitely recommend it. Man, that's tasty. Oh my word. So, as I mentioned, fire roasted salsa. Make it spicy, make it sweet. You're gonna love it. Thank you guys for tuning in. I wish you could try this. Go make it at home.